I'm watching a video yesterday on GitHub Copilot, and it was solving interview questions that any mid-range engineer would get, even some pretty difficult ones. And it was able to see the requirements on the question and answer the algorithm for the person who was taking the test, and with flying colors, by the way, like easy
Uh-huh.
problems, medium, all the way through. And it took him probably a second to copy and paste the question into his editor. And then it took GitHub Copilot about a second or two to actually have the solution. And there, I will say, so he was using Python, and some of the syntax would be something that if you ever worked in a system and you came upon that code, you would have absolutely no idea what it was doing. You'd have to
Oh
have a
yeah.
really good function name and just abstract the code behind the scenes. But nevertheless, it passed all of the tests every single time for every single problem. What are your thoughts on these things like GitHub Copilot, GPT-3, like the natural language processing, and the potential for our doomsday as software developers as we know it, where robots are writing our code for us?
Earlier we mentioned the idea of like WordPress developers, the ones who kind of have their niche doing marketing sites and they're happy with it. I think jobs like that maybe are at risk. I think some of your basic CRUD applications might be at risk. But as we just mentioned, even getting requirements right the first time is already hard enough. And so I think some problems are definitely going to be able to be solved very easily by this. But there's still an entire class of problems that I think are hard to express in a way that Copilot would actually be able to understand and implement. I think there's also the whole factor of like, when you think you do understand them well enough, and then actually getting back in that the rest of that process of like testing, deploying, confirming with the customer, still is a place where humans will need to be intervening. And that's all without even talking about the potential license implications and questions about, if GPL was part of the training process for Copilot, what does that mean for the code it produces? If it's spitting out a line that is, directly from GPL, what does that mean? I think there's an entire world of legality there that's going to be interesting to see the fallout from, honestly, over the next few years. I wish it would be faster than timeline than that, but I've seen enough in the legal side of things to know that it's going to be a few years.
Yeah, yeah.
But that said, I mean, there's a lot of problems that I think it can help you with, and those will be really interesting to see it do.
Yeah, I agree. There is certainly a set of problems, like you mentioned, that are ripe for like doing the CRUD operations and whatnot, that are ripe for being replaced by something like that. But I think software is inherently a very people-driven thing, enterprise, and people are messy, and getting things right
People are
is
messy,
not easy.
right? And requirements change constantly, and I mean, and that I think is another interesting thing is like, okay, give me a piece of code that was done correctly, requirements were gathered correctly, get Copilot wrote it correctly. Awesome. Now it's deployed. Now a change comes in.
Mm-hmm.
How is it going to handle that? Maybe they already have a path for that. Maybe they don't. I haven't looked to see whether it can change code yet or whether they're working on that yet.
Right, refactor a current system given a new feature
Right.
request. Yeah.
And I think that exactly is the other part of it is like, again, for a certain class, it's going to be great. Certain class of problems, it's going to be great. When you get to these larger, more complex problems, it becomes more questionable. And then it then opens up the entire world of, say we do get to the point where the legalities are cleared up for larger companies to be able to consider it. If I have it generate my simple problems so I can focus on the complex ones, what's it going to be like interoperating between those two systems?
Yep.
Corner cases, observability, debugging, again, modification.
Yeah, I think we're
we're
safe
a long
for
ways off from getting to that point. Yeah, we're safe, I think.
I think we're safe for another couple of years. But thanks
And
so
hey,
much for
worst
coming on,
case,
Jim.
we just start working on writing future versions of GitHub Copilot and we still have a job.
That's right. Become one of the people that maintains that system, right?
There you go.
Put all your chips in that. Awesome. Well, Jim, thanks so much for coming on, and I'm looking forward to speaking with you soon. And thanks for all the good context on everything you've been up to and the path ahead for a lot of devs here.
Absolutely. It was great.
Take care, man.
You too.